inside.
Yeah.
What happened? What do you remember?
So I was working, I was helping out a customer. I was in the back just doing what I normally do, and I just heard a bunch of screaming. Then I just saw a bunch of people running. I didn't think anything of it, you know, because I just thought something would happen. But then, like, it was just a whole bunch of running. And so my manager was, we all ran to the back. My manager went and closed the door and just made us all hide off in the back. Like I said, I didn't hear any shooting, any gunshots. It was just probably a false alarm with somebody saying that they were going to shoot up the food court and everybody was going to die. So we all hid in the back. I'm sorry?
So you never heard actual gunshots. So what sort of ignited your panic?
Just everybody running and screaming and crying. I can assure you the screams were the most scary for me because I've never dealt with anything like that.
Talk about how you're feeling now. You told me earlier your heart's still racing, even though it was a false alarm.
So my heart is still racing. Can't catch my breath right now. I'm in panic still. I can tell you I'm still in shock. Even there was no gunshots. I don't know. It's just very scary. Like I said, I don't want to ever have to deal with a situation like that again, whether it being a false alarm or the actual accident or incident.
Can you describe what the scene was like in there? Were people just running like crazy for their lives? Were people screaming?
It was like a stampede of people just running and screaming. That's all I can tell you. It was like a stampede of people. So first group, and then like you can hear stomps, and then it got quiet for a good like 2 minutes because you can hear the running, and then like as soon as they pass us again, you hear more screaming and running.
So you and your coworkers, I assume, maybe people in your store opted to stay put, to
yes,
hide in the back?
we were told to stay put, hide in the back. I was hiding in the restroom, so you know, there was just people in the back crying, and I understand why. You know, we just had a mass shooting not too long ago, not here in Texas, but
just last week.
Yeah, they're going everywhere. So just two, to for that matter, and it's a big event right now with tax-free weekend going on. So I had a feeling that something like this was going to happen.
So you guys huddled together until police cleared you? What happened when police got to you?
So police came into the store, and we just were told to walk out, no running. We were told to walk, and then we were told to walk up among the wall. So we were among the wall, and then they are not letting anybody in right now. So the mall is temporarily closed as today.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad you're okay, Kayla. I know it's scary, and hopefully, thank God, it was a false alarm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Kayla. So guys, I'm not sure if we are still live on Facebook. If so, someone please tell me in my ear because I still hear programming. Okay. Let's run through what we know happened so far. Houston police just tweeted while I was doing that interview that they have confirming 100% that this was not an active shooter incident. You can still see, though, they responded as if it were. You can see the incredible police presence, dozens of police vehicles just on this side of the mall. We haven't been able, because of traffic and restrictions, to get to the other side of the mall. We assume the response is just as great on the other side as well. You can see people walking in the parking lot, people still filtering out of the mall after what they believed was an active shooter incident. We're told that this somehow happened in the food court. Some sort of threat was detected by folks, and that basically ignited some mass panic where people started to run, people started to scream. That young lady we just heard from, her name is Kayla. She works inside the mall at a store called Hot Topic. She said she didn't hear gunshots. No one that we've spoken to so far actually heard shots. They just responded in panic, started fleeing from the mall. In Kayla's case, they huddled inside their store and just waited for police to clear them from that location. Again, good news here is that this is not an active shooter situation. There is no threat that was detected by Houston police. Everyone is safe. No injuries, no gunshots were fired. There's a whole lot of scared people, obviously, as that young girl we interviewed mentioned. This is just coming a week after we've had two mass shootings where 31 people were killed. People's nerves are on edge. Just from getting out here, there was a traffic mess even before we got here. It's tax-free weekend. This mall was packed full of shoppers. So you can imagine what the scene was like in there. Kayla described it as mass chaos, just complete chaos. And now that chaos is sort of filtering out here onto the street. People are trying to make their way homes. A lot of people actually fled the parking lot, are now walking back to the parking lot to get their vehicles and to head home. So that's the situation out here. A lot of police cars, a lot of people concerned, a lot of people scared, not knowing. A lot of them, I assume, still don't know that there was no threat found. We are walking closer onto the property, to give you a better look at the response here. But again, massive police response, police clearing this mall bit by bit and determining that there was no active shooter, there was no threat, no one was injured, and people are safe. As to what exactly started this mass panic, we're getting multiple reports. It's too early to tell you exactly what it is. That hasn't been confirmed by Houston police, but we know it was some sort of incident in the food court where there were reports of a man who was perhaps wearing a mask and saying that people were going to die. We're going to obviously get that checked out with Houston police and get more confirmation on what sort of ignited this in the first place. But we just want to reiterate, no active shooter threat. If you have family or friends here, you're maybe watching us on our social media platforms, there is no danger here at Memorial City Mall, just a whole lot of scared folks who fled the mall. Ron?
From HPD is the update is this is not an active shooter incident. Preliminary information is a male suspect set off firecrackers inside the mall, alarming the patrons throughout the mall. The male has not been located, but obviously, you know, a sigh of relief from everybody out there at the mall, but what a frightening afternoon it was for them, and probably still is, as they try to figure out just you know, what has happened inside the mall. Thousands evacuated this afternoon, as Marcelino was saying, right in the middle of the tax-free holiday. So many shoppers getting back to school clothing or school supplies for their kids. And the last thing we needed was somebody setting off fireworks, if that's what happened today inside the mall. And as Marcelino was alluding to, there's a kind of chaotic scene out there a bit still. Traffic-wise, looking on Twitter, it looks like there's a bit of a traffic jam in that area along the Katy Freeway, so you might want to avoid that. But if you're just tuning in, what we can tell you is that there was a massive evacuation of Memorial City Mall this afternoon because there were reports of a possible active shooter in the mall. HPD did not find an active shooter. They say it was probably, may have been somebody setting off fireworks. They're looking for that person who scared so many shoppers this afternoon. We heard from one of the shoppers there, who actually somebody who worked there, describing the scene. We've got, do we have some video as well? We have some video of some of the shoppers leaving the scene of the mall this afternoon. People, there you go, people shooting this video from inside their car, I believe. This is probably about an hour ago, I'm guessing. We got word of this situation inside Memorial City Mall, which frightened so many shoppers there. As I said, the last thing anybody needed today was somebody setting off fireworks that somebody might have perceived as being a gunshot. But the good news is there is no active shooter at Memorial City Mall. The bad news is, you know, there's a lot of traffic out there, and people are still confused. People still trying to get to their cars. People worried about their loved ones. As you can see, people running away from the mall just about an hour ago. But the latest we have is that there is no active shooter. HPD is still at the scene at Memorial City Mall. Let me see if we have any more information from them. Let's see, HPD officers are on the scene at Memorial City Mall following up on reports of a possible active shooter. No threat has been found. Again, the latest is that they believe maybe fireworks were set off inside the mall. Let's see if they've tweeted anything new following that.
He said one child is reported to be injured.
Yeah, apparently one child may have been injured, maybe in the rush of people leaving the mall. They've sent some people out there to investigate that. Do we have any more live pictures coming from the mall?
I don't. I'm working on it. Several people have sent in video to us, and we're working on it.
And if you have video of the scene there at Memorial City Mall, we urge you to send it to us. Send it to it via Twitter, or you can email it to us, or post it to our Facebook page, and we'll share it with all our viewers here. But so many people calling us this afternoon. You can imagine how frightened they were. The relief now knowing that the word from the police department is there is no active shooter. There were no victims, and they were still looking for a suspect who may have set off some fireworks. It looks like maybe a child may have been injured. We hope to find out some more information on that. We've got Marcelino Benito on the scene right now. Do we have any more live pictures from Marcelino? We may not have any live pictures from him. Are we able to use any of the, well, that might be a live picture from Marcelino right now. There's a scene right now, obviously outside the Target, people calmly getting to their cars, but just ruined their shopping day as they were trying to get ready for back to school, trying to save some money, and then frightened for their lives after apparently maybe some fireworks go off. And you can't blame people for leaving the mall as quickly as they did.
Working on gathering some more videos sent in by viewers.
Okay, we're going to try to get some more video for you sent in by some of our viewers. But again, and obviously, if you were planning on doing some shopping tonight, do not head out to Memorial City Mall. That place is, we don't even know if it's going to reopen tonight as the investigation continues there. I guess right now it's just a matter of people leaving there without creating more of a traffic jam at Memorial City Mall. Okay, if you're just tuning in, we're bringing you live pictures from Memorial City Mall, where police converged about an hour ago, investigating a report of an active shooter in the mall. They say there is no threat, there is no active shooter. May have been somebody setting off fireworks. Do we have some more video? Here's some more video from a viewer shooting from their phone through their car of some of the initial chaos as people were running from the mall and thinking that there may have been a shooting.
Oh, look, Marcelina's talking to me.
All right, let's go to a live interview now. Marcelina Benito is having an interview with somebody there at the mall.
Get these people and kids in the store now, you know, and shut the doors. So they just came rushing in, and they were saying somebody has a gun, you know, that was just flashing back to Walmart. People were freaking out. So we just get them and we get them in the back. And then nobody knows what's going on. And then the alarms start going off. So we're just like, trying to calm all the kids down, because that's my main thing, because I have kids. And so I don't know, I'm kind of like,
you're still
I'm like in shock. Yeah, because why would somebody do something stupid like this? Well, I don't understand what's going on. Like, why? What's the whole point of this? Like, to cause, confusion and stuff like that. Like, why? It just.
Did you hear? Describe the loud noise you heard. You said you heard a loud noise.
Yeah, it sounded like a loud pop, like maybe something breaking or like pop, and someone said it was a gun. But then another person said it was a smash and grab, like at a jewelry store. So it must have been glass. So with that noise, people thought it was a gun, so they took off running. So I mean, I'm not gonna go searching for it. We're just gonna go and help people. So and it's crazy. We're walking through the mall and you see strollers left there, baby bottles left there, purses laying on the ground, merchandise on the ground, because none of that matters. Your life matters. So it's like we're just like there to help, and I'm just glad that nobody got hurt that I know of, so I just pray that nobody got hurt.
How packed was it in there? I mean, it's tax-free week, and I assume it was busy.
It was so busy. It was so packed. It was crazy. People just came in a storm. Like they bum rushed us. We didn't really know what to do. We didn't have much time, but we just knew we needed to take as many people in and lock the doors.
So you guys locked the doors and waited, and then how did you know it was safe to come out?
The officers came with the AKs, and they said that for us to come on. That's when the big boss man says, come on, let's go with the big old guns, you go.
One more question for you. Obviously, this is coming off just 1 week after 2 awful mass shootings, so tensions are high. Did that just make it, not that this is easy anytime, but it makes it so much worse?
It makes it really bad because there's kids and, and us, people. We're all human. But, yeah, it makes it really bad. Like, why people are trying to be copycats? Like, why can't we stop this evil now? Like, we got to stop this. We need to come together. And instead of hurting each other, we really need to come together is what we need to do.
And I don't know if police told you what they've uncovered, so I just want to give you the latest because you were in there. So they found no active shooter, no gunshots were fired. Early reports are it was firecrackers that someone set off to possibly scare folks. But I guess the good news is there was no gun, no shooting.
Thank God.
I'm glad you're safe.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, y'all have a blessed day.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Ron, that's the second employee from the mall that we have spoken with, and you can just see the tears streaming down her cheeks, even though no one was hurt, no one was injured, no shots were fired, but just the mass panic and mass fear that people in this mall felt this afternoon. Well, just a lot of them trying to do their tax-free shopping, a lot of them probably doing back-to-school shopping, and in light of what we saw last week in El Paso and Dayton, when they heard a noise that maybe resembled gunshots, they They panicked, they started running, fleeing the mall. You heard her describing the scene there. A lot of baby strollers left behind, people left their purses, their shopping bags with stuff that they'd purchased in the mall, and just fled, ran for their lives thinking there was a shooter inside. Houston police, of course, now telling us that there was no threat inside the mall, no shooter found, no gunshots to report. Early indications are from Houston police again that this was some male suspect likely set off some fireworks. They have not found whoever that male suspect is. That person is still outstanding, and we are told by Houston police that a public information officer is on his or her way to the scene here to provide us more information. But you can see our live camera here. People are still either coming back to their cars because they just ran completely off the property. People still leaving the mall as police continue to clear this shopping center, and a massive police presence still out here as we continue to wait and work to learn more. But again, reiterating what those two employees told us from two different stores. This particular employee that we just spoke to heard a very loud noise. She saw people starting to panic as some people thought it was gunshots. Mass running, people ran into her store seeking shelter, and they just locked the doors. And a lot of them prayed, a lot of them cried and waited for Houston police and law enforcement to clear them and tell them it was safe. And she says police came in there with their long rifles and told them it was safe to leave. And that was a huge relief for a lot of people, but still a very, very scary situation out here. We're continuing to get more information, and we will bring it to you as soon as we learn more. Ron, I'll send it.
Okay, thank you, Marcelino. Keep that live picture up if you can. But yeah, it was your heart had to go out to the woman you just interviewed as you saw her crying and said, "Have a blessed day," because I'm sure she was praying along with everybody else in this city. Memorial City Mall being one of the most busy, perhaps the busiest mall in the Houston area. And people running for their lives, literally running for their lives, thinking there was an active shooter in there. Thank goodness there wasn't, but it was such a frightening afternoon for so many people with their families, trying to pick up the pieces now, trying to find their cars, trying to find their shopping bags or their purses, whatever they may have dropped in their effort to flee the mall. You've got some HPD choppers overhead. They're still investigating just what happened out here. The good news is there was no active shooter, perhaps somebody with firecrackers, but they're still looking for that person. Last tweet that we got from HPD. Also, a child may have been injured, perhaps injured as people were leaving the mall, but just a horribly frightening afternoon for all these people at the mall. Heightened concerns throughout America. I'm sure we weren't the only city that had law enforcement out in full today because of all the back-to-school shopping, and a number of law enforcement agencies in the Houston area had stepped up patrols for this weekend because they knew so many shoppers were going to be out there. And of course, still on our minds are the horrible tragedies of the last weekend in El Paso and in Ohio, where shoppers and then the people in Ohio were killed in those two mass shootings. Now, the last thing anybody needed was anybody setting off firecrackers in the middle of a mall, if that's indeed what happened. But the scene, if you're just tuning in, is that HPD and a number of other law enforcement agencies converged on Memorial City Mall. Perhaps about an hour ago, there was a report or reports of an active shooter in the mall. They could never find one. They could never find any victims. But what they have determined now, preliminarily, is that somebody set off some firecrackers, and they're still looking for that person. But the good news is, the great relief is, nobody's been hurt. Perhaps a child was hurt, maybe as everybody was leaving the mall, but no one was shot today. There's no loss of life here. There was no big, huge tragedy, but it sure did frighten so many people to the core today. All these shoppers just minding their own business, trying to save some money for their families, getting their back-to-school items, trying to save some money. And the day turned into this massive chaos here at Memorial City Mall, which continues a little bit. You can see so many police cars there in the parking lot. A number of people still walking around trying to get to their cars, As we said earlier, they dropped whatever they were doing, they probably dropped whatever they bought, and they ran for their lives because they didn't know what was going on. Perhaps they heard the firecrackers and assumed the worst, but this is how we are these days. We hear firecrackers or we hear a car backfiring and we assume the worst and we start running. We're hoping to get some new word from HPD. They have sent a spokesperson out to the scene, and hopefully we'll be able to give that to you live on this stream on all our platforms. We'll be waiting for that to happen. Of course, we'll have full report coming up on our newscast in about an hour at 5:30 following golf. But we'll be staying on this as long as we can because we know so many of you have questions about what happened at the mall. So do we. Maybe you didn't go to the mall, maybe your loved ones did. Maybe you're worried about them. Well, the good news is there was no active shooter and no one was shot. But they are still sorting things out. There's a big investigation still to come. Investigators are looking for whoever may have set off fireworks, scaring everyone. Add to that, maybe some people just arriving, not even knowing what happened. Also, in a kind of a traffic update for you, this area along I-10 and Gessner near Memorial City Mall might be an area that you would want to avoid right now. A lot of confusion and a lot of people leaving that mall all at the same time. So that would be our word of advice traffic-wise. Avoid I-10 and Gessner and avoid Memorial City Mall. They will probably not let you in right now. They're still investigating, still looking for whoever may have set off fireworks, scaring everybody. We are trying to also gather any video we can from you, our viewers, and our followers on Twitter. If you have any video that you shot on your phone that you'd like to share with us, please share it with us, post it, give us permission, and we'll try to share that with some of our people who, some of our viewers who are watching on our many platforms right now.
Do you want to go back to some of the video that we had before people?
Why don't we show you some of the video that we had before, if you're just tuning in, of the exodus there at the mall when people were frightened, and rightfully so, running away from the mall. People were so scared, we understood that they were hiding in certain stores. Is that one of the reports that we heard as well?
Yeah, several people called and said they were hiding in stores. People who were calling said their children were at the mall. And
Yeah,
reported
so
shootings,
a lot of people were calling our newsroom. The phones were ringing off the hook, and people were calling us, telling us that they were in the mall and hiding in certain stores, huddled and hiding. So you can imagine what that must have been like, not knowing what was going on. A lot of people called us, because they knew their loved ones were at the mall. They wanted to know what was happening. All we could tell them at the time was that they were investigating a possible active shooter, but HPD had not found any victims or a shooter. And we can tell you now that they don't believe there was a shooter at all, that perhaps it was firecrackers. Our reporter on the scene is Marcelino Benito. We've been checking in with him periodically. He looks like he may have some a new interview for us.
So,
Marcelino?
tell me your name again.
Anthony Sutton.
Anthony, so you were inside at the food court, right?
Yes.
And so tell us what you saw or what you heard. What happened?
What I saw was, I think it was a guy like in an orange shirt, and he had a mask on. It all happened so fast. And once the stampede broke out, it's like he blended in so quick, so it's not like you're going to be able to. So I guess maybe at some point he took his mask off to blend in or something like that, and the rest of the crowd was knocking each other over. There's so much chaos that I had to leave too. I couldn't just sit there and stand and watch, you know what I mean? So the smartest thing to do was just exit, and it was just complete chaos. And
did you ever hear a noise? What sounded like gunshot?
I didn't hear a noise at all. That's why I thought a fight broke out. You know what I mean? I just thought some kids were fighting and everybody was just. But then I saw the crowd coming more and more. I was like, okay, this is serious. So I got out of there myself and tried to get to safety.
Were people screaming? Did people think this was an active shooter?
People were acting like somebody got shot. People were crying. If you were walking, people like as I walked back through there, there's like food everywhere, slippers. People left their belongings. You get what I mean? And people got kids, so of course like they're crying. The older ladies are crying. There's a car that ran through one of those things like right over there. If you caught it, all right. So it's like if everybody's rushing for their lives, then as I was outside, another stampede was about to happen. So everybody was running again. I don't know if it was another guy running through the crowd again, you know. So I just did the same thing. I just got out the way. I even saw one of the fire department guys running. So
Houston police tell us there was no active shooter. It appears some sort of male suspect set off some fireworks, maybe in the food court or something like that. In light of, I mean, I think people are sensitive in light of what we experienced last week. I mean, is that extra fear that you felt because of what happened last week?
Excuse me, this car coming. I done had a few near-death experiences, so I'm just like, best thing to do is keep calm and keep your composure, and then, you know, do the best thing you can to get to safety. That's it. But yeah, I understand, like, look at these people, like, traumatized. There are people prying open elevators, telling people, wait, like, you would have thought this was like the apocalypse or something going on, but, I mean, it's a real situation. It's no joke, though. And they took it too far just for a prank. Like, you're about to get, like, charged with almost a terrorist threat for a stupid prank. Firecrackers? Like, what was the purpose of this? Like, it's almost like they just threw their life away if you really think about it. Like, yeah.
Well, thank you for talking to us. I appreciate it, and I'm glad you're safe.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Y'all be easy. Take care.
So there you go. This was not an employee here at the mall. This is the first actual customer, shopper who was here learning from his experience what he saw, what he witnessed. He was actually in the food court where we believe all of this first unfolded. He says he saw a man with a mask that sort of started this all. We do know from Houston police they are searching for one male suspect who they believe at this point started this all with some fireworks. That is the noise that likely struck fear in so many people's hearts, causing them to panic, causing them to run. Out here live, you can still see people trying to leave the mall. These are mainly shoppers, employees. They are clearing this mall room by room, shop by shop, trying to get everybody out, hopefully trying to find that male suspect police are looking for. As we mentioned earlier, we are awaiting a Houston police press conference where we hope to learn more information. You can see some sheriff's deputies there with those long rifles that some other people who work in the mall had told us were being used to clear the mall shop by shop. A lot of people didn't have time, didn't want a chance running through the mall and running outside. They actually ran and hunkered down inside stores until they were cleared by law enforcement. So, Ron, we've been reiterating it all afternoon long, but really just a sense of fear, mass panic that ignited here at Memorial City Mall. This mall was packed with shoppers taking advantage of the tax-free weekend, likely taking care of back-to-school shopping, and people just felt real fear in light of everything we've seen in this country in the last week, what we saw in El Paso, what we saw in Dayton. And when people heard what they believe sounded like gunshots, they ran and stampede ensued. I do want to clarify what we've reported earlier, that based on Houston police tweets, we do believe that one person was injured. Houston police telling us on Twitter that it was a child. We're not sure how he or she was injured or what the nature of that injury was, but we do know one person was injured in this chaos that unfolded in Memorial City Mall, and that person is a young child. We hope to get more information about the exact nature of that injury, the age of the child, when we hear from Houston police in a little bit. But important to reiterate, no danger here inside the mall, no active shooter. This was not an active shooter situation. No shooter was found and no shots were fired. Ron, I'll send it back.
All right, thank you so much, Marcelino Benito, out there outside Memorial City Mall. They don't believe it's an active shooter, but as you can see, these deputies and officers are heavily armed as they go into the mall to continue to look for the suspect, whoever it was that may have had some firecrackers or set off some firecrackers. But it's just horrible to listen to the stories that shopper was telling about people who were frightened for their lives, who were crying. They thought this was the end. I mean, so it may have just been a scare, but what a horrible scare. I mean, this is a horrible scare that truly did traumatize the shoppers there at the mall today, at Memorial City Mall. Again, if you're just tuning in, thousands of people just rushed out of the mall this afternoon, maybe about an hour and a half ago. there was fear that there was an active shooter in the mall. Police are saying there was not an active shooter. That's the good news. They think it may have been somebody with firecrackers. But it did cause massive chaos out there, and people were frightened for their lives. And as we heard from that shopper, a lot of people may have left their valuables in the mall as they ran out. So that's going to be another issue for people, so many people, because that mall was packed, getting reunited with either loved ones or their personal belongings, whatever they may have purchased today. So that has to be settled at some point as well. But the main point right now is it looks like the investigators, the officers, are still looking for whoever this suspect may be. But at any rate, that mall is not open for business right now, and there's a huge traffic jam around there on I-10 and Gessner. People still leaving the area, getting to their cars on what we said earlier was such a traumatizing afternoon for them. They were just going to the mall to get some back-to-school clothing or some. Okay, we have a tweet here.
Just the same tweet, just letting people know to clarify that Houston Police is definitely saying that this is not an active shooter incident.
Yeah. Okay, just re-clarifying.
Yeah.
It's not an active shooter incident from HPD. They believe it may have been firecrackers. So we're still waiting for some word from them. They have somebody out there or on the way out there to talk to the media, so hopefully we'll be able to give that to you live as well. But just a horrible scene at Memorial City Mall. There was not an active shooter, but people thought there was, and it frightened them in a traumatizing way. A lot of people praying and crying and huddling in shops, not knowing what was going on. Horrible night, because we have heightened fears these days, especially what happened last week in El Paso and in Dayton, Ohio. All right, this is the live scene right now of people leaving the mall calmly, but there are still a lot of cars in that parking lot, and there's still a lot of huge police presence as well. Again, we're inviting anybody who shot video, people leaving, to please send it to us here at khou.com. We'll try to air it and try to share it with everybody else. Maybe use it on our newscast coming up at 5:30. Horrible scare for people in West Houston today. Nobody needed this. The final day of the tax-free holiday, and perhaps maybe the busiest mall in the Houston area. One of the most popular, that's for sure. And then you have this scare that empties out the mall. And so many law enforcement have converged there now to try to get to the bottom of it. What we do know from HPD is there was no active shooter, and no one was shot. We understand a child was injured. We don't know how that child was injured or the extent of the injuries to that child. Do we have any new video from any of our viewers that we can share?
No new video yet. Let me check. Yeah, no new video yet. We're updating our story, looks like.
All right. Well, we're trying to get some new video for you from the viewers who took video on their cell phones. We know you have a lot of questions about what happened this afternoon. So do we. We're hoping to get some answers from a police spokesperson here shortly. We've got our crew at the scene, Marcelina Benito, gathering information and speaking with people who were at the mall today. We heard from a couple of employees who were frightened, one to tears, and we just heard from a shopper who described the scene there in the food court, people running for their lives, and people already in tears, and you can understand why. And if it was a firecracker, you could understand why somebody would think that would be a gun instead of a firecracker. Nobody takes security lightly these days. In fact, as we told you a few days ago, law enforcement agencies in the area were promising to step up patrols around shopping centers this weekend, and they did. the shopper we heard from described somebody who was wearing a mask at one point and then took it off. And we don't know the motive, what was going through that person's head, bringing firecrackers in the mall, if that's what it was. But thank goodness it wasn't a gun. Are there any questions that we can take from some of our viewers? I know we have limited information, but we'll try to answer as many as we can.
Let's see. Let's see what we got here.
And you're looking at live pictures, by the way, of these officers at the mall. Their investigation is far from over.
Not a lot of questions, but a lot of people saying this is why they don't go shopping anymore out of fear.
Yeah, and we're getting comments from some viewers saying this is why they don't go shopping anymore, out of fear. See some shoppers there trying to get to their cars, I would believe.
A lot of people who were at the scene just describing it as it was horrible, a very chaotic scene.
Yeah, people on Twitter describing it as being very horrible, a chaotic scene. You can only imagine what it was like. But it was a traumatizing kind of afternoon, I would say, for everybody who was at the mall today.
David Rodriguez asks if anyone has been cited or arrested. No.
We don't know of any arrests yet.
Vida Hernandez is saying that she was there and her car is still in the parking lot. Can she get to it?
Okay, so we're getting a comment from someone who says their car was in the parking lot. Can they get to it? That's a good question. It looks like I would assume that the police have blocked off some areas, so it might be a while before you're able to get back to your car.
The last tweet that Chief Acevedo said was that the mall is safe, but he did not say if they were allowing anyone back in the mall or in the parking lot. So
the latest tweet from the police chief, Art Acevedo, was that the mall was safe, but he didn't say anything about people being allowed to get back to their cars. It could be a while. And that's a shame, knowing how hot it is outside right now. People need to get to their cars, get back in the AC and go home. But that might be difficult for some people, depending on where they parked. I mean, obviously there's a lot of activity outside the Target right now. Okay, if you're just tuning in, what we know is that there was a huge mass evacuation of the mall, people running out of the mall this afternoon about an hour and a half ago. There was fear that there was an active shooter there. HPD says that there was not one, but certainly people were afraid that there was. Heightened alert on this sales tax holiday, last holiday before school for a lot of people in the Houston area. Police were already on high alert because of what happened in El Paso last weekend and Dayton, Ohio, the recent mass shootings in America. Law enforcement was already on high alert. And it's great to know that nobody had a gun out there today, but firecrackers were enough to scare the life out of people as they ran out of that mall, dropping their purses, dropping their bags, shopping bags, running for their lives, not realizing what happened. We've got some more video taken from a viewer here. HPD says that it was somebody with firecrackers, perhaps, preliminarily saying that. Still looking for that person. One child may have been injured, but we don't know how that injury was sustained, what caused that injury, or how badly injured that child was. But no one was shot. That's the great news. But what a traumatizing afternoon for so many people in the Houston area. I mean, that mall, Memorial City Mall, is so popular. If you weren't at the mall today, you probably knew somebody who was. Or maybe a loved one, a member of your family may have been. Our phones were ringing off the hook, and we were trying to give people as much information as they could. The calming words from HPD now on Twitter is that there was no active shooter and that there's no threat anymore. But obviously a lot of people are still at the mall trying to get to their cars, maybe trying to get back the purchases, whatever they had, their shopping bags, whatever they bought today, they may have been separated from that. Okay, well, we lost our live signal from the scene there at Memorial City Mall. Marcelino Benito. Hopefully we'll get him, get his signal back up and give you some more interviews from there. And hopefully we'll be able to give you some live information from HPD as they send a spokesperson out there. And again, we want to invite anybody to send us video if you have any, please.
Reiterate that it was Memorial City Mall. A lot of people are asking which mall.
Okay, a lot of people are asking us which mall. We're talking about Memorial City Mall off of I-10. This is where it happened this afternoon. Memorial City Mall. That's where the big scare was this afternoon. It was not an active shooter. It may have been somebody with firecrackers, but it was not an active shooter. No one was shot today. A child was injured. We don't know how that child was injured, but the good news is no one was shot today. There was no active shooter out there, just somebody who scared everyone immensely with firecrackers, perhaps. Law enforcement still at the scene. We don't know if they've tracked down that suspect or not, but we know a lot of people are still out there at Memorial City Mall trying to get back to their cars, perhaps trying to get reunited with loved ones if they were separated at the mall. Maybe one member of a family was one part of the mall, the other member was at a different part of the mall, and they all left. Now they're trying to get reunited. We're sure that's probably happening about right now. And people dropped their valuables as well, running out of the mall. So maybe they're sticking around to see if they can get help from police in getting back their merchandise. And we heard from somebody on Twitter trying to get to their car. Are they able to get back to their car? Well, we don't really know, depending on where they parked in the mall, because police have probably blocked off some areas of those parking lots. They're still investigating, and they probably will be there for a while. And there's so many of them. It's not just HPD. There's sheriff's departments and constables out there as well, a number of law enforcement agencies. But again, if you're just tuning in, this was Memorial City Mall. Massive evacuation. People thought there was an active shooter. It was not an active shooter, but HPD responded. They were investigating for a while. They couldn't find anything. They couldn't find an active shooter. They couldn't find any victims, and they determined that there was no shooter, that it was perhaps firecrackers. They're still looking for the person who may have had those firecrackers. Only one person hurt is a child. So we're trying to get more information on that child's condition and how that child was hurt. But it's still an active scene out there at the mall. It's safe, but there are so many law enforcement out there and so many shoppers still trying to figure out what to do and how to get to their cars. And obviously the traffic out there, we've been told from people on Twitter, is pretty bad. So avoid the traffic there along I-10 and Gessner if you can, where Memorial City Mall is. We're hoping for a news conference of some sort from law enforcement out at the scene, but perhaps they're still trying to gather information as well. So as soon as they get that information and pass it along to us, we'll pass it along to you, hopefully live. You'll get it as soon as we get it. Are there any more pieces of video that we can show people, or?
No new video right now. Let me see if there's any questions.
We're going to try to search Twitter right now and see if we can get some more information for you from any law enforcement or any video that you may have sent.
Kathy is asking a very good question that we unfortunately don't have the answer to. Is the mall open or closed for the day?
Kathy on Twitter is asking us if the mall is open or closed. I don't really have an official word on that, but my guess right now it's not open. Maybe it will reopen this afternoon or tonight. That's being really optimistic, but I don't know. No word on that.
Still a couple of people asking on Facebook about their cars, if they can get back to their cars.
A lot of people still wondering about whether they can get back to their cars. We don't know. There may be some parts of that parking lot that are closed off, but we did see some people getting to their cars. It might be possible for you to get to your car. It depends on where it's parked and how close it is to the mall, because certain areas may have been blocked off. Yeah, we're trying to answer some of your questions, so if you have some, post them and we'll try to answer them. But again, we're dealing with limited information as well. But the great news is there was no active shooter. somebody with firecrackers apparently, or a firecracker scaring people. But it was just such a traumatizing kind of fright for shoppers out there. We have a live picture now at Memorial City Mall from our crew out there, Marcelina Benito. Seems very calm, but it's hard to really tell what's going on from this angle. That section of the parking lot looks pretty empty. That might be the exit driveway. But anyway, that's the scene right now live outside Memorial City Mall. A lot of law enforcement there still trying to get to the bottom of this scare at the mall today. No active shooter at Memorial City Mall. Perhaps somebody with a firecracker. A small child injured. We don't know how. We don't know if it was a boy or a girl, but we'll try to get some answers for you here shortly when we get some official word from a police spokesman out there. We've got constables out there, Sheriff's Department and HPD. There may be other agencies out there as well, because law enforcement was taking this weekend extremely seriously when it came to security. They told us a few days ago that there would be extra patrols this weekend because of all the shopping. Let's go to Marcelino Benito. He's live outside the mall. Marcelino, can you hear us?
So Ron, you're taking, stand by Ron as we get situated here. You're taking a live look at the scene. We've been showing you all afternoon. What you'll notice, the difference from when we arrived here about an hour and 15 minutes ago, far fewer police presence. A lot of the police vehicles have started leaving the mall. The parking lot also far less empty, as this mall has been completely cleared out. We've spoken to lots of people throughout this afternoon, some employees, some shoppers who were inside the mall when all of this unfolded, a lot of them sharing their different experiences, but all of them united in the fact that they were just completely scared, tears streaming down some of their cheeks as they recounted the moments inside. They thought there was an active shooter inside the mall. A lot of them didn't really hear gunshots. One person told us they did hear a loud noise. They didn't know what it was, but people reacted as if it was gunshots. And when one person started saying that there was a shooter, that sort of snowballed and people started rushing. Mass panic ensued as they tried to flee the mall. Some chose not to flee and actually fled into stores and hunkered down. The stores closed their doors, locked it tight, and waited to be cleared as a massive police presence responded here to Memorial City Mall. You can imagine what the scene was like inside. It's tax-free weekend, back to school shopping taking place, so this mall was packed full of shoppers, and all of them just wanting to get out, wanting them to stay safe. Police cleared all the stores inside the mall. They tell us they found no active shooter, no shots were fired, and at this point they're still, as far as we understand, are looking for a outstanding male suspect who they believe may have discharged some fireworks inside the mall, and that's what sort of ignited this mass panic as people stampeded out of the mall, I should say. We should also mention that injury-wise, there's one injury to report so far, that coming from Houston police. We're told the child was injured in what unfolded inside Memorial City Mall. We're not sure what age that child is or how he or she suffered that injury, but we're hoping to get more information from Houston police. I'm told that the public information officer, the spokesperson for Houston police, is on scene here at Memorial City Mall, working to determine where that press conference is going to take place. As soon as that begins, we will obviously carry it live for you, and we hope to get those questions clarified. But again, want to harp on the fact that you can see the difference an hour makes. The scene far less hectic at this point, far fewer police out here, and the parking lot, a lot of people have fortunately and luckily been able to head home. The parking lot is far less empty than it was when we first got here. Scott, if we pan the camera around, all the way around, you can see the traffic situation. You can see the traffic situation around the mall. It's still a hectic situation in terms of traffic, so if you have family trying to head out to this area, it's best to avoid it if at all possible, because people are still attempting to leave, maybe walk back to their cars. We're told from several witnesses that people actually fled off the actual mall property, didn't want to be anywhere near the mall, not knowing what was unfolding, and now they've had to walk back, get in their vehicles, and head home. One final note that I want to leave you with, Ron. people are describing the scene to me of what the mall looked like inside, and it's sort of an eerie sight, I'm told by several witnesses. People left their coffees behind. They just dropped their coffees. They dropped their purses. They left behind their shopping bags. When that panic ensued, when they thought there was an active shooter, people just left everything behind, sandals, flip-flops. They just ran for their lives. Fortunately, Houston police telling us there was no active shooter threat, there was no active shooter, and no shots were fired. But in light of everything we are seeing across the country, that fear that we saw unfold here at Memorial City Mall, understandable to say the least. Ron?
All right, thank you so much. Marcelina Benito live outside Memorial City Mall. Those of you who had questions about can you get to your car, it looks like you might be able to get to your car now. But what a horrible afternoon it's been for so many people in Houston, frightened for their lives, people who thought it was over. They thought it was a shoot. They thought it was an active shooter there. We're happy to say that it was not, but it was somebody who scared the lives out of people that were running for their lives this afternoon. One small child hurt. We understand. We don't know how that happened, but no one was shot today, and that is very good news. We're going to wrap it up right now from here on this platform. We will give you any new information. If we have a police spokesman who comes live before our cameras, we'll put that on our digital platforms. But until then, we go on the air at 5:30 on Channel 11, so you can watch us there with the very latest on what happened at the mall today. Hopefully we'll have more answers for you there. But what a horrible afternoon, frightening, traumatizing kind of frightening afternoon for all these shoppers there at Memorial City Mall. The good news is there was no shooter and no one was shot. I'm Ron Trevino. Monitor us on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. We'll give you the very latest. And of course, tune in at 5:30. Thanks for watching.